Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Duggan with IGN, and I'm here with Jeremy Dunham and Thomas Silloway of Psyonix. They made Rocket League. This game has accrued a 4 million strong player base in the span of a couple of weeks. So my first question to you guys is, what has it been like to experience such a massive, amazing reception straight out of the gate that I can only imagine you guys did not see coming?
It's been a mind-blowing experience, to be perfectly honest. We saw on the first day there was a just overwhelming response, and that was before it had even come out in all of the territories.
Yeah.
And it hadn't even come out on Steam yet.
That was the amazing thing, is just we were watching this game that we were hoping would do well, and we always thought that people would like it if they played it. We just didn't realize to the extent, and we were watching our game roll out in these territories. It started in New Zealand and then started working its way west from there. And as it started happening and we saw the numbers going up and up, we didn't quite realize just what that meant at the time. We're still, I don't think it's still sort of sunk in just how big the game is right now. But it's great. We're really happy about it.
That's great to hear. All right, well, let's move on to some current news. You tweeted out very recently showing the new car that is going to be included in the game's first DLC pack, which is going to be dropping in just a couple of weeks. So can you elaborate and tell us what else might be included in that DLC?
Yeah, well, the first DLC is going to be paid, so it will cost a couple of bucks. But what we think is really cool about it is we're making sure that everybody knows that it's not going to be anything that gives anybody any sort of advantage. We're against that sort of thing. So it's going to add a couple of cars, and it's going to add some more customization items that people are really going to like. It's called Supersonic Fury, and we're actually going to be talking about it next week, but when this airs, it'll be this week on the PlayStation blog, and then we'll be able to show everyone. We have a new trailer for it and screenshots, and the trailer looks awesome. But at the same time, we're also going to be pushing out an update when the DLC hits that will be free to everyone, that will include a map based on our old Utopia map from the first game called Utopia Coliseum. And there's been a lot of speculation from the hardcore fans about what that actually means. And so what that really means is that it's a map inspired by the original map. So it's a lot more of your regulation-style arena that we have in the game now, but with an artistic theme and visual style very similar to Utopia. And we're also going to be pushing out spectator mode at the same time. And so that's the free element, and then the new cars and the extra customization items will be the paid element. And we're also going to have a brand new single in the game from Hollywood Principal. So we think that it's going to be a nice combination of items and cool stuff that's both free and paid. And then, of course, we're also putting in the "we're sorry that our servers tanked on you a couple of days" items in there as well. And those will be free.
Speaking of the first game, which was supersonic acrobatic rocket-powered battle cars, nailed it. I heard through the grapevine that there may be an Easter egg in Rocket League that kind of alludes to that game. Can you tell us what that is and how to access it?
Yeah, actually, it's a really neat thing that a couple of guys here were really passionate about putting in. And if you're sitting on the start screen and do the Konami code, what are the exact buttons
up,
for
up,
the end?
down, down, left, right. Cross, circles, options. I want to say start, but it's options.
So if you do that, for anyone that tries it, it will blow their minds if they're a fan of the original game.
So moving things to a slightly more serious note, some videos have surfaced recently of players cheating in various ways. Is this something that the team is aware of and planning to address?
Yes. I mean, we saw the video posted on Reddit like everybody else, and we don't like cheaters. Nobody likes cheaters. We take that very seriously. We know what that person is doing, and we have already taken measures that will curb issues similar to that, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. It's in online gaming with so many different configurations and so many different network protocols and so many different variables that you have to deal with. You're always going to have to be combating against cheaters, and that's not something that we're just like, well, the game's out, let the wild figure it out. That's not our approach. Our approach is, if we find cheaters, we're going to do whatever we can to prevent them, and of course, cheaters being cheaters, are then going to try to find other ways to cheat, but at the same time, we're going to be finding ways to prevent them from cheating. So we're going to do whatever we can to minimize that and to make sure that it doesn't happen often. And, we're also doing things like implementing punishments and banning scenarios and other things that we're working on down the line and right now with our next couple of patches. So we have a series of plans and things in place to get that taken care of.
So springboarding off of what you just said about negative player experiences and trying to deter certain scenarios, there's at least a fairly common occurrence in ranked mode where you will queue up and maybe one or two players will fail to load, or if things don't go your way in the first couple of minutes, some players will leave and you're left in a scenario where you're playing against 3 people by yourself in a ranked match, which is obviously no good. So how are you planning to deter this behavior and improve the player experience for anybody who's solo queuing in ranked?
So we're keenly aware of this. As you might know, we play the game a lot ourselves, and this issue has affected us quite a bit too, and we're not very happy about it. So we are looking into taking measures for it. The most immediate measure we're taking is anyone that leaves the game will be banned for 15 minutes from matchmaking. And we're also planning in the future to add things like the ability for a team in rank to be able to forfeit. So if they are getting destroyed and they all want to leave, then they won't be penalized. So that way, at least it's a little bit more fair for both teams in that regard.
And that's not the only thing either. We're discussing various other scenarios and other things that we can institute too. But those are two things that we know that we want to do. We want to make sure that all of these issues, every single one that anyone runs into, is something that bugs us too. And so we're doing whatever we can to get rid of them or to minimize them or make everything better. So that's our promise to the community in general, is that we are going to do whatever we can to make the game better as long as everyone keeps playing it.
And there was actually something similar stated by Dave Hajwood on Reddit in response to a thread where players were concerned that maybe power-ups were coming to the game. But Dave very clearly stated that power-ups, changes to physics, or balance are not something you guys are planning to add in future content, and went on to say that there are already an infinite number of ways to make the game even better without changing the core gameplay. So can you elaborate a little bit on what he meant by that and what your plan for adding content is in the long term?
Yeah, well, some of the easy things that come to mind and are things like the maps themselves, the arenas. Because the game is so competitive and skill-based, very slight changes that you can make to the arenas can make a big difference in how the game is played. This is no implication as to what our specific map futures are going to be like, but for example, if you were just to put bumps in a certain part of the map or a divot somewhere, or just add a second level, or you change the map in any way, whatever that way would be, it completely changes the way you are playing that game strategically. Again, none of that stuff is necessarily something that we would do, but those are examples of how just making one slight change to the playing field can change how the game's played. The interview that you're referring to, where we had the quote about the power-ups, that was a quote taken from a much bigger conversation where it was also talking about something we had in the alpha tests called mutators. We had these special playlists that would come out during the alpha period to see how players responded to them, where we had things like a giant ball or infinite boost. And so when we were referencing power-ups, it was a reference to those mutators, which could potentially come back if people wanted them to. What we've said in that interview and other interviews is that mutators are still not something we're necessarily sure will make a comeback. It's an ongoing discussion. So, we take this whole thing as it's a good sign. The fact that so many things that we've said is being dissected and overanalyzed and looked at, that means that people care about the game, which is exactly what we want. We've never been fans of the hide information, hold back information. We try to tell people whatever we can when we can responsibly. So that's our whole approach.
You confirmed recently on Twitter that 3v3 team ranked, so being able to queue up with two of your friends into a ranked 3v3 game, is coming. When do you think we can expect to see that? And as a follow-up question, since the majority of my questions are about new content coming to the game, how has it been with the team of 8 to 12 people trying to implement all this stuff and change all these things and have this massive reception to the game? How has that process been? But before you answer that, just quickly the 3v3 question, when we might be able to see that.
That's a great question. Yeah, it's been highly demanded from the community and our own team as well. We think that it will drop at least at the same time that our DLC update comes out, if not earlier. It has been quite a challenge just to make this game in general with such a small team. You can imagine that the game itself, the gameplay is relatively small. It's the same kind of game over and over, and the main variety comes with playing with different players, different skill levels, and the different single-player modes and stuff like that. But we've actually spent a significant amount of time on our online infrastructure. Moving forward, that's a major focus for us to make sure that that is very stable. And of course, we also want to bring out more features that people are requesting. We want to put as much stuff into the game as we possibly can. And of course, that's a very big challenge with a small amount of people.
The thing to add to that also that I would say is that a lot of us, if not all of us, are perfectionists. And so even though the team is only 8 to 12 people, depending on what the demand is at the time, we keep pushing ourselves over and over and over again until we get the feature or the gameplay element or the item that we're trying to get in the game and working.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd like to add is You may see updates coming slower than you would like, because I know everyone after the first week was like, okay, let's get something in there for ranked quitters and stuff, and we're like, we hear you, we're working on it. But the thing is, when you make a change that is significant like that, it needs to be thoroughly tested internally, not only from a bug testing standpoint, but from a design standpoint, to make sure the decision we're making is correct. And I think no one would be happy if we rushed an update that kind of partially fixed issues, but also created new ones. So we really want to make sure that whatever we're doing is only improving the game.
So it's no mystery that the game is very much esports material. The competitive reception has been great so far. So are there any talks to associate yourselves with an esports organization or hold your own first-party tournament like a Rocket League World Championship?
Yes, that is absolutely something we plan on doing and want to do. We already have an official deal with the ESL. That's been going on for a few weeks. We have a lot of other conversations going on with practically every other competitive esports organization out there. Everyone is very interested in the game, which we really appreciate. We think that that's going to be one of the very important things for this game long term, is being able to support the competitive crowd, giving them the tournaments they want, and having things for them to go after, goals, and people that they aspire to be or people they aspire to beat in the game. For us, it's really satisfying, honestly, to see folks that we've seen in the community for years and years who played the original game and are now playing Rocket League and applying those skills and getting tons of viewers on Twitch and getting tons of people on Twitter trying to learn what they know, trying to use them as a way to get better at the game. For us, that's fantastic to see our community members who stuck with us for so long actually get some kind of benefit from the success of this game as well. It's something that really actually it touches us in a way that's not inappropriate, but very satisfying.
That's fantastic. That's so great to hear. Thomas Silloway, Jeremy Dunham, thank you so much for joining me, and congratulations on your success. For all of you watching at home, for all things the future of Rocket League, keep it right here on IGN.